Okay, well, we got all that transom glassed in. I'm gonna come back in here. I gotta back up a little bit. I was supposed to put these gussets in here before all the glass and all went in, and you know, I got 2-inch fillets in here. It'd probably be fine, but I'm gonna go ahead and put these in, and then I'll come back and put a layer of glass in here. So about to put those on, and I'm gonna go ahead and run these shear clamps and get all that glued up. And it's a pretty day outside today, so what we do is going to get this other one here on this other side too. Go ahead and knock those out, and then once again, as soon as I get these done, I'm gonna come in here, trim them off the top, and so that I can fit this to come in here and catch that. All this will be bedded with a thickened epoxy. Like I said, I'm gonna come back in here and put a layer of glass over it. So I'll probably have to rough this up a little bit before I do that. So that's what I'm gonna be doing here today. Welcome back. I'm getting after it here again. I'm taking these shear clamp pieces off this stock lumber, and I'm marking the side to make sure that I put the epoxy on the right part, and just took the little sander there and roughed up those corners. And now I've mixed some epoxy, and I'm pre-coating all of those pieces that are going to get thickened epoxy to be mounted. And you can see me just running around the edge there, that wet edge, and then I come back and hit all that stock lumber, because I'm going to try and glue all this up today and get it all mounted. So what I'm doing here is I've made some thickened epoxy now, and I'm screwing those gussets in those corners. This should have been done before, according to the plans, it should have been done before I put the fiberglass in the transom, but I just screwed up. So I'm putting them in now. It's better late than never, I hope. And then all I've done is come back and try and straighten that epoxy, that thickened epoxy. And you can see me here spreading it along that shear clamp. It just worked out better to kind of spread it out. And then I took my little notch trowel that I've been using, that I really cut with a pair of scissors, and spread it out. So I got both of these forward shear clamps ready, and I start putting them in on this port side here. I was smart enough that I put a reference point where it ended, right there where you see that clamp that's closest, so I knew where it would wind up when it got to the point of the bow. But on the starboard side I didn't have a reference point, so I had to do a little maneuvering here. But all in all, I went in and then started just throwing clamps at it, every one I had and every one I could find. Actually wound up running out of clamps. I could have used more clamps, and then I wound up, here more aft, I started using screws because it's a little straighter function, and it worked out pretty good. But this is another thing that I've been dreading, and I'm glad that I finally got it put in. And here it is. I'm just cutting those gussets off straight so that I can continue fitting these rear shear clamps, and I just put them in there, marked them, went out and cut them. And here it is. I'm gonna start getting some more thickened epoxy ready, and we're gonna coat those up, get it spread evenly. You can see there, kind of spread it on the board, and I come back with that trowel, and then I'm gonna start laying it in there. Instead of getting all my screws ready, because I'm kind of running short on clamps. So we screwed that in there, and it all went pretty well. Like most things with this project, the things that I've dreaded the most, it kind of came off pretty good, and wasn't a whole lot of need to worry. I've actually gotten so good at pulling fillets that here in the bow I was able to use this excess epoxy and just pull fillets underneath that shear clamp on the front. Yep, I worked on it all day. Finally got the shear clamp in on both sides. A lot of clamps, a lot of stuff holding it. I got a little extra stuff going on here.
on this side, actually see I've got this little, actually I got another board on the outside of here, because as I look down it's got a little, it's not fair. It's not, doesn't have a nice even curve to it. All that'll probably be negligible once you put the outside shear bumpers on, but I've just tried to put that other board on there to just maybe try and straighten it a little bit more while that thing is gluing up. Maybe that would help it. It's not going to hurt anything. So that's why you see this other board in here. We go to the back. I've had to get every clamp that I have. I put these gussets in the corners. There's one here on the port and the other one on the starboard, and I'll pull those screws and all and pack all that full of thickened epoxy. And then probably tomorrow I'll come in here and lay some glass on that. So it's one step closer, one step. You know, I don't know if you can look down through here and see where it's got a little bit of a, I can see it because I know, because I've been looking at it for a while. But that's what I'm doing. So I'll show you another all the way from the back view. It's starting to take up every bit of this 10-foot wide tent. So we'll keep working on it. Maybe tomorrow we'll get this fiberglass and all in. All right, so pulled all the clamps, got all the shear done. So got all the clamps off. So now I'm on the back here where I put these gussets in. I've already pulled the washers, screws and all out. I'm gonna take and fill those up, fill all those holes up, and then we're gonna lay this fiberglass in here. And it's just gonna span this little corner just to kind of firm up this corner a little bit. Those gussets should have been in there before the fiberglass went in, but I missed it. So now I'm putting them in afterwards, and we'll just do the best we can. So already got them patterned, got them cut, and got them set. So I just put a little bit of fiberglass on there. Now I'm gonna just a little bit of epoxy resin, I'm sorry. And now I'm gonna go make some thickened epoxy to fill these holes.
So here we go, I'm running through this pretty fast. All I'm trying to do with that epoxy there is squeeze into those screw holes where I had attached those. That epoxy set enough that gusset's in there firm. So all I'm trying to do right there is just try and push that in there. And there's a good technique that, you know, Lou with the tips of a shipwright, or where you halfway cover the hole and lay that thing down. I wish I'd have paid more attention. That's kind of a tease as to what I got coming in the future. But all I'm doing here is just trying to get this epoxy in there, because I'm gonna come right back behind it, start laying some fiberglass. So this thickened epoxy to fill those holes and smooth those edges. So as you can see here, I've already pre-cut this. This is 1808 biaxial fiberglass. You can see it's a pretty heavy little weave there. That's kind of what's in the whole bottom of the boat, so it should be really strong. And so I've pre-coated this fiberglass or this corner, and put this piece in there, and now I'm just trying to wet it out. This is a contrast to what I've been doing, which is in the past I've had my little wet out table where I've got the visqueen and all, and I can do this on a flat surface, and then I actually put the wet fiberglass in there, which I can already see that it's wetted out. And this is kind of a different situation where I'm trying this out, and it's much more difficult in my opinion. But ultimately I get it all done. You can see I just keep rolling the epoxy in there, and this corner here is the first one I attack. So I kind of put some stuff on it, and then I let it sit for a little while, because it does take a little while for that epoxy to soak into these, you know, these bigger fibers of this fiberglass here. So running through this a little quick, to be honest with you. This whole process with these corners and this shear and all this, it probably took a couple of hours, and we're going to run through it here in probably under 20 minutes or so. But running through this fast, you can see it takes some time, and you know, the process is just one task after another, and you just have to embrace the suck, so to speak. It's just, you know, like this wasn't such a terrible thing, but I've been worried about it. You know, this is another thing, I've been worried about it, but to make sure that it came out right. But it just took getting in there and getting it done, and it's all working out fine. So here we go with the port transom corner, and same process. You can see there, I'm just taking and I'm wetting out that corner really good, because it's easier to get that resin to soak from the bottom side, like through the chop strand side. This 1808 is actually, it's got chop strand on one side, and it's got I think it's biaxial woven on the front side. That's what you see there. So as long as you can pack that epoxy in there, you know, and get your surface nice and wet, at least in this application, it's supposed to make it a lot easier. I find a lot of success, like I said, with my little wet out table and my visqueen and whatnot. But it's a little bit of a process here. Once again, I'm not a huge fan of this foam roller here. It does apply even pressure, and in these situations where you've got a lot of contour, I think that it does a little bit better. I like my little matte rollers, or my nap rollers, for putting on more epoxy, you know, in higher dosages, higher volumes. But yeah, this view really makes me see I got a big head. But other than that, you know, I'm just steady after it, trying to get this fiberglass set and all, and it all works out really nice. I'm sure it probably feels like I have this on slow motion or whatever, but no, it just takes time. And I roll and roll and roll and roll and try and get all the little air bubbles out and make sure that the resin's even and pushed down. And this is the problem with using a slow hardener in cool temperatures, which I'm making an adjustment moving forward from here to get a faster hardener, because it does actually help you when that resin gets tacky, because it'll start grabbing that fiberglass and holding it in place. And like it is now, you can flood it and you can do all you want, and then you know, because it takes it, you know, 6 or 8 hours to actually start stiffening or get tacky. You know, you can't babysit this stuff the whole time. So there is a good application for having a medium hardener or not a slow hardener, especially on a small little piece like this. I mean, I could have had all that epoxy and had all this wetted out probably within, for both of these, if I'd have made the same batch of epoxy, within 10 minutes I could have had them both in place and in place, you know, wetted out in place. But because I'm using this slow hardener and it's fairly cool, it's warm for the weather we're in, and this is why I don't like these sponge rollers, is that they fall off. But it's probably because you use that contour, that tip, like I just showed. But they still work, and you know, and they do have a lot of pressure, a little more than that nap roller. So that's why I keep using them. But we get it done here, and we're going to keep moving on.
Alright, so put those gussets in yesterday, filled all that with epoxy this morning, and I've come back and I've glassed it. As you can see, it's just been glassed. Just for reference, like that's a little spot where it's trying to raise up a little bit. But other than that, it looks pretty good. It'll be fine. The other side looks pretty good as well. So what I'm gonna do now is I have these backing blocks for my stern eyes. So what I'm gonna do is just like I did on the transom, is I've come off the edge to center. I made a mark right there and carried the mark down so I can see it. So that'll be the center of this block that's 6 by 6. Then I made this little template. Let's see if I can set it down. Okay, so this little template, these are the center holes for the stern eyes. So that I centered it left and right and up and down. So whenever I drill these holes out, it should be in the center of that block. So what I'm going to do now is, like I said before, we'll set this line up here, hold that tight. I'll drill 2 pilot holes, and then once I have the pilot holes all the way through, then I'll come back and over drill a larger size, just like I did over here on these stern eyes. If you didn't see that, it's in maybe two or three videos ago, but that's what I'm about to do now. Coming here this morning and trimmed off all the excess of that, and like a real genius, laid on the ground and let all the dust land on me. So I'm gonna have a fun night. So that's what I'm about to do. I'm about to drill this one here on this side, and then also come over here. You can just barely see my line in there, so it all matches up. And I'm gonna drill these in so I can get that thickened epoxy in there while it's a little bit warm today, and get it to start setting up. So that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so once again, I got a center line here, and it goes up and over the top. So it should be easy. Setting it right there. What I'm doing here is I have my little Forstner bit set, and I'm trying to figure out which size I need, and I think I'll explain that pretty good right here. Alright, so this is a 3/8 U-bolt that I'll have. So eventually what I'll do is I'm gonna drill it out, drill the hole that big, and then I'll put the little caps on the end. They'll be a little bit bigger. So I think this will be 3/4. It's going to require probably a 1/2 inch hole, maybe just a little bit more, 5/16 or something. But that'll give me plenty of play to make sure that I've got good protection there. And then I'm going to put this cup on each side. I have to put the top up. It's starting to rain. So as I'm drilling this out here, I'd actually already done the starboard side. I realized that where I'd put that fiberglass and those gussets on top of that, it's still wet, it's still tacky. So all that sawdust and all those shavings and all from the drilling was hitting that stuff and just sticking. And it probably wasn't the smartest thing on my part. The good news is this is in an area of the boat that's going to be covered, closed in. You'll never see it, and eventually
I'll probably come back and sand all that out and have it coated with total bilge or whatever. It'll all be coated just so that it looks good more than anything. But this was just kind of a thing where I got in a situation where I was ready to do this, and I should have waited, but I couldn't wait. I was ready to go ahead and get done with it. Alright, so once again, I put a pilot hole all the way through. Then I took a Forstner bit, a 1-inch Forstner bit, and drilled in about 1/4 inch on each side, stopped. And then I put a 3/4 inch Forstner bit, and that's what you see me here. Is I'm going to go ahead and punch through. So from the outside, you'll have a 1-inch hole, and then in for about 1/4 inch, and then you'll have a 3/4 inch hole all the way through. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm preparing to put that thickened epoxy in those holes that I just made for those stern eyes, and I'm just taking these little scraps of wood and putting some of that blue tape on it, and I'm going to clamp it in place. And one thing as a tip is you'll see me take, I have a piece of wood, and then I put another little smaller piece like a wedge in the bottom of that, because I don't have enough throw to my clamp to be able to get down and clamp that thing in the middle. So here you see me take the little piece of wood. You actually see it fall out on the ground, and I pick it up. There it is right there, and I pick it up and put it up in the bottom. And as I clamp that, it provides enough pressure lower, towards the bottom side of that it helps to keep that tight. Now that part did really well. But in retrospect, I probably wouldn't have used blue tape. I should have used some packing tape. That's going to be it for this week, so follow along.